My Don patron, Corbin, sent me a 9-year-old video of Alex O'Connor, aka Cosmic Skeptic. I don't know if that's still his name. Did he change it? No, I don't think so. Anyway, he sent me this video titled The Paradox of Prayer. Now, maybe Alex O'Connor has changed his thinking about this. Maybe not. This was 9 years ago. All right, let's just skip to the bit where he actually starts talking, which I think is about here. Let's go.
Now, if you are religious, then you'll be very aware of the attributes that your religion assigns to your God. The most important one to focus on for this topic is the fact that all three of the Abrahamic gods are supposedly omniscient. This means that they are aware of everything that has happened, that will happen, and is happening right now. Another important point is that they all supposedly have a predetermined plan as to what's going to happen in our lives. And here lies the paradox of prayer. The type of prayer that's brought into question by these qualities are the type of prayer concerning asking God for something to happen. For instance, if you ask God for your favourite sports team to win, or for a family member to overcome a disease. The important point is that the outcome of these prayers will have one of two options, i.e. it will either happen or it won't. The team will win or the team will lose. The family member will survive or the family member will die. It's always going to be one or the other. Now the issue is, God already knows which is going to happen. He already has it because he's already planned it to happen. The future isn't the future for him because he's outside of time. This means that God already knows if the team is going to win or lose. God already knows if the family member is going to survive or die because it's all part of his plan. So when you pray to God asking him for something, it will either already be part of his plan or not be part of his plan. If it's not part of God's plan, then it's not going to happen because God's plan is final and God's plan is the best plan. This means it's pointless to ask for something if it's not already part of God's plan because it's not going to happen anyway. On the other hand, if it is part of God's plan, then it was already going to happen regardless of whether you prayed for it or not. This means that while you're not hurting your cause, you're also not helping it in any way. And because you're praying for something to happen that was already going to happen, this means that a prayer of this type is again futile. So this means that both of the conceivable outcomes of this type of prayer are completely unaffected by the prayer itself. And there lies the paradox. Whether it's part of God's plan or whether it's not, what you're praying for will have no effect on the outcome due to the attributes that, if you're part of an organised religion, you agree your God has. And therefore any prayer of this type is futile. Now of course, if you have your own personal religion which believes God can change his plan.
Okay, let's look at it. I find it quite funny that both atheists and Christians ask the same questions about prayer. You've got Christians who feel like their prayer is pointless, and they will ask the same questions that he just asked. Isn't that interesting how we have that in common? It may be coming from two different places, but we've got it in common. I don't think it has anything to do with intellect. I think it has to do with accepting and believing that God actually loves you. But that's not to say that we don't have those intellectual questions and we don't, desire understanding. This is good, and we should grow in our faith in this way. So what are these questions? So these questions are basically, why should I pray to God if God already knows what's going to happen? Why should I ask him for a specific outcome? He already knows, and he has already planned a specific outcome. What's the point in asking God for a specific outcome if God is eternal and immutable or unchanging? Surely my requests then are futile. I know Alex was brought up a Christian. I don't know, what flavor of Christianity he was brought up in. I seem to remember either reading or hearing that he was brought up Catholic, but I'm not so sure because the view of prayer that he's expressing isn't, it's not Catholic. It sounds Calvinistic. Basically what I'm saying is there's no paradox, and here's why. To put it very simply, Alex seems to propose this. Premise 1, God is omniscient. He knows every outcome. Premise 2, God is immutable or unchangeable. He has an eternal plan and it is the best plan. It's not like he's going to change for a better plan that you suggested. Now, the premises are correct. God is omniscient and he is immutable. But the conclusion is forced. And this is where it kind of sounds Calvinistic. It's like his conception of God's eternal plan or God's immutability seems to imply to him that seems to imply an interference of our free will, or an overriding of our free will. Our choices don't matter. That's the territory this seems to be going into. Now, there's actually no reason, this is why I say it's a forced conclusion, there's no reason that God cannot have willed for a reality which entailed cause and effect, and for you and I to be the causes within that eternal plan. Let me give you an example. Let's say that from before the foundations of the world, God decreed that next week I get a certain job. I'm not low-key asking for prayer requests. There's no job. It's just an example. But let's say that a week from now, there's this job that I'm going to get according to the plan of God. Now, I'm inside of time, and so this event that was planned from eternity is now approaching me. I see this job advertised, I want it, I apply for it, I pray to get it. Alex is correct to say that me getting the job or not getting the job, whatever the planned outcome is already part of the plan. Like, God already knows which outcome is going to happen. He has already included this in his eternal plan. But it is incorrect or unnecessary to conclude from that my prayer, my participation had nothing to do with the outcome. There could have existed a reality in which the same job presented itself, but I didn't pray for it and I didn't get it because I didn't pray for it. That's entirely reasonable. God can will for a reality which entails cause and effect, which entails our participation. And in fact, when you consider the Christian narrative, we are presented with a God that desires our participation. This is most evident in the thing that is unique to Christianity, which is the incarnation. God takes on flesh. He becomes one of us. He joins himself to humanity. So what I'm presenting here, the reality that entails cause and effect and entails our participation, this is far more in alignment with the God we find in the Bible. Okay, let's consider the two aspects of God that are being used here to come to his conclusion. So there's God's omniscience and his immutability. I'm not arguing against those things. God is omniscient, he is all-knowing. God is immutable, he is unchanging. So how do we reconcile petitionary prayer with these two characteristics of our God? Let's deal with omniscience first. I don't think this has a lot to do with omniscience. God can know the outcome, and this doesn't have to affect our participation in it at all. I think really the stronger part of his paradox is God's immutability. But okay, so here's the thing. Prayer is not for God's benefit. We are not revealing anything to God that he doesn't already know. Prayer is for us. We need to pray to God not in order to make known to him our needs or desires, but that we ourselves may be reminded of the necessity of having recourse to God's help in these matters. So turning our hearts and our minds to God in prayer creates a habitual disposition of humility. This is good for us. As I said, I don't think omniscience has very much to do with this paradox. God can know a thing will happen without that thing happening necessarily apart from our free will or our participation through petitionary prayer. Our petition for a particular outcome also does not necessarily entail God's ignorance of the outcome. Now, what about God's immutability, his unchanging nature? For I, the Lord, do not change. Can our petitionary prayers, can we make requests to change God's mind? It's again true that our prayer requests, our petitionary prayers, cannot change God's mind. Prayer doesn't move God to say, I wasn't planning on doing this, but since Christdefender asked me to do it, I'll do it. The reason this is true is because God is fully actualized. He is a fully actualized being. No potency, there's no potential in God. God is infinitely perfect. There is no perfection he can acquire or lose, which would be the case if God changed his mind. So if God can't change, then what's the point of petitionary prayer? What's the point in me requesting a specific outcome? We come back to the cause and effect reality. God's providence involves willing certain effects to take place, and also the causes from which those effects will be brought about. In other words, God wills a pattern of cause-effect relationships. Now, the eternal plan that determines which causes will bring about which effects includes human acts. These actions don't change God's plan, but are an essential part to it. So that's the key difference here. This is why there's no paradox. There's only a paradox if you force that conclusion. They achieve certain effects according to the order of the divine disposition. Consider again the example I shared about the job. So my prayer in the example isn't changing God's mind to give me the job, whereas he had actually planned not to give me the job. But my prayer, my acts were willed by God to be part of the cause-effect pattern. God may will from eternity that things should come about as things prayed for by us. In other words, it's possible that God wills some events to occur only as a result of prayer. Another example, God may have eternally decreed to heal a loved one of cancer, but only on the condition that persistent requests for a miracle, for a healing, are made. Whether we know the effect is conditioned by the request or not doesn't matter. The point is, it's possible, so we make the request, hoping God wills our prayer to be the cause of the effect. If it turns out he did not will it, then so be it. God's plan is the best plan, like Alex said. Hence why in our prayers we echo Jesus's prayer in the garden, "Your will, not mine." But if God does will our prayer request to be the cause of the desired effect, then it would be true to say that our prayer makes a real difference. It wouldn't have made a difference in that it has changed God's mind, but it would have made a difference in that it is an essential part of the cause-effect pattern God has eternally decreed. One more example. The real causal power that our prayers have in God's eternal plan is no different than the real causal power of, say, producing breakfast. My actions are essential to bring about the outcome of scrambled eggs, because that's how God arranged it to be from all eternity. Similarly, God has created the world. He has created a reality in which that meal comes to be in a specific way, and he has included my human acts as a necessary part of that outcome. Similarly, some events will occur only as a result of prayer, because that's the specific way God has arranged it. God has created a world in such a way that our actions serve as real game changers, and he desires for our participation in his plan. So there's nothing in the act of petitionary prayer that's incompatible with God's immutability and omniscience, but particularly his immutability and his eternal decree. Our petitions are arranged by God to be part of his divine plan. And you know, what a great honor that is. What is man that you are mindful of him? You know what I mean? Anyway, Corbin, that was good. Well done. And I hope that that has helped. If, you know, it is part of God's eternal plan that you enjoy this content and decide to become a patron yourself, then you can do so, and I would very much appreciate you doing so, because that's how I live. This is what I do to make a living. The link is below. You get early access to all YouTube videos, and you get to make requests like these and send me videos to respond to and whatnot. And it's my pleasure to help if I can. Bye.